Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome, a huge warm welcome, and thank you for joining us today for another one of our wonderful Geoscience Australia public talks. Hopefully most of you know me by now, but if not, my name is Melissa Harris and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Geoscience Australia. And before I get going, I will start, as we always do, by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the country throughout Australia that we're all meeting from today, and acknowledge our traditional owners' continuing connection to land, waters, sky and community. And of course we pay our respects to the people, cultures and elders of those lands, past and present. Today's an exciting talk because, of course, we are launching Geoscience Australia's Earth Science Week campaign as opposed to the actual event. And this is because it's not actually Earth Science Week until later this year, being scheduled to be held in October, but we're so incredibly excited about it that we're getting ready 6 months early. And so what we're hoping to do today is to give you all some inspiration as you start thinking and planning about how you can support Earth Science Week activities later on this year. So today you will be reminded about the mind-boggling myriad of ways that Earth science affects our daily lives and can be found literally everywhere. And then our wonderful education team is going to demonstrate some really intriguing activities using everyday items that you might want to consider doing during your own Earth Science Week celebrations later in the year. So we have a spectacular lineup of presenters, as we always do. And just to kick it off, first up we're going to have Dr. Verity Normington, who I know is well known to most of you. Verity is a self-professed rock chick, she tells me, who passionately shares her knowledge and insight by telling the stories of rocks. Verity is a geoscientist who very passionately applies her STEM knowledge and skills in communicating and engaging with stakeholders and implementing policies in her work. She is our wonderful Director of Strategic Science in Geoscience Australia's Office of the Chief Scientist, and Verity was a 2020 Australian Science Policy Fellow and a 2019-2020 Superstar of STEM. So we're very lucky to have Verity, and we'll hear from her shortly. And then, of course, we have our wonderful education staff who will be leading the demonstrations today. First up, Dom Iffland, who is a well-versed science communicator, having delivered student workshops and teacher professional learning from Cairns to Hobart and Alice Springs and just about everywhere in between, I'm told. He has a Bachelor of Biodiversity and Conservation from Macquarie University, a graduate certificate in animal genetics from Sydney University, and a Master of Science Communication Outreach from ANU. And Dom is our Education Centre Coordinator at Geoscience Australia. Following Dom, we'll hear from Tamara Alden, who has had a fascinating career as a science educator with a passion for earth science. She has a Bachelor of Science with honours in Geoscience from Monash University and a Masters of Teaching from the 2019 Teach for Australia program via Australian Catholic University. She created and ran her own tutoring business for maths and science across both primary and secondary levels from 2012 to 2017. She was a secondary maths and science teacher in schools across Victoria from 2019 to 2021. And of course, she's continued her fabulous science communication career with her role with us as Education Officer at Geoscience Australia, starting back with us in 2022. We're also going to hear from Emily Robson. Emily is another passionate science communicator who is, of course, committed to raising awareness about the significance of geoscience and its career opportunities. Emily has a Bachelor of Advanced Science in honours in Earth Science and Sustainability Studies from ANU. She also has extensive experience in delivering a variety of different science shows, workshops and lectures to audiences ranging from primary school students to university students. And of course, Emily is also an Education Officer within our Education and Outreach team at GA. So I am absolutely intrigued about what these demonstrations will show us. But of course, to kick it all off, it is my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Verity to the stage. So thank you, Verity.
Thanks, Mel, and thank you to everyone for taking time out of your day to join us. So before I want to get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. I just want to note that the government is currently in caretaker mode. So we'll be sticking to facts and showing you the engaging ways to explore earth science today. So I have a question for you. How many times have you used earth science this morning? I'll give you a few seconds to have a think about that. So how many did you come up with? Did you come up with 3, 4, something like that? So I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to go through it, and I want you to have a think about how many times you really had contact with earth science today. So, have you turned on a tap? Have you poured something down the drain? Did you flush the toilet today? Nods, excellent. Good hygiene, I love it. So, the tapware, the PVC and copper pipes, these are made of resources found using earth science. The water might have come from the ground. That was likely found using earth science. But if it came from a dam or a reservoir, earth science helped to determine the best place to build them. So if you use Google Maps or something similar today, yep, great. Earth science contributes to the accuracy of location and positioning that digital mapping applications rely on. Without the work to ensure we have accurate positioning and location data, we would not have reliable directions, or would we be able to follow our pizza from the shop to our front door on our food apps tonight? So another question, have you used anything plastic in the last hour? Plastics everywhere. Plastics are derived from petroleum products. Earth science contributes to finding petroleum resources. Plastics are often in things you don't even think about. Have a look. Are you wearing vegan leather shoes? Or is your top made from something other than natural fibres? These materials are typically sourced from petroleum products. So you wear connections to earth science probably every single day. Think about what you had for breakfast today. What did it come in? Did you cook it? Me? I had a bowl of porridge with honey, perfect for our drizzly, cold Canberra morning. The oats grew in the soil. Understanding how soils develop and deciding the best landscapes for farming are based on fundamental understanding of Earth's processes. That same farmer might have used location and positioning data to know where their tractor was, what crop and what paddock is being harvested. Earth science is entrenched in agriculture. Last one. What did you see on your social media feed today? Look, don't lie, we all looked at social media at some point today. Anything earth science related? That beautiful photo your friend posted that made you wish you were still on holidays. You can use earth science to understand the process that formed that landscape, allowing you to form a connection to the country and where you're standing or want to be standing. The device that you used to look at your social media, that's constructed of materials that were made from resources that were likely newly extracted from the earth, or maybe they were recycled and reused in that product. Without earth science, we would not have access to those resources. So my challenge to you is to have a look around every now and then. Try and come up with 3, 5 ways that earth science has contributed to the things that you can touch, the things that you can see. Think about how that connects you to the country we live on and how we live with the environment and the landscapes around us. So I hope that that has really entrenched in you that earth science truly is everywhere. It's in your food, it's in your mobile phone, it's even in your clothes. It's so much more than the rocks and the landscapes that we traditionally associate with earth science. It's linked to almost everything you touch. Earth science contributes to society in so many ways. This could be economically, culturally, historically, or environmentally, and in a small or a really big way. And this is why we are passionate about celebrating and raising the awareness of how earth science contributes to our lives and our lifestyles. Geoscience Australia is really proud to be flying the flag for Earth Science Week, a week that is a global movement to increase the awareness and relevance of earth science. So this year, Earth Science Week is from the 12th to the 18th of October, and as Mel said, that's just 6 short months away, or 164 days, which makes it sound even closer. So the week is Earth Science community's opportunity to showcase the many connections between earth science and how we live our lives. It's an invitation to dive into the fascinating world of the Earth's processes, explore the bounty of natural resources, and discuss the pivotal role of geosciences in addressing critical societal challenges. So the theme this year is energy resources for our future. And that was designed to inspire everyone to be an informed energy consumer. And you can't do that without having an awareness and an understanding of earth science. So we would like you to celebrate Earth Science Week with us. And to get you started, we have some fantastic resources. Trying to get my slide to work. Some fantastic resources for you to start planning how you are going to celebrate. So our digital supporter toolkit has everything you need to host an event and celebrate with us. It includes posters, editable social media tiles and invites, flyers, as well as some easy-to-follow event instructions. We would love it if you would register your event with us to help us spread the word and build the excitement. If you don't want to host an event, that's totally cool. But if you would like to celebrate by attending an Earth Science Week event, check out our events calendar so you don't miss out a minute of the fun. All of this information is currently live on our Earth Science Week webpage, which you can access using our QR code, or you can go to ga.gov.au/ESW, and we have all the information there. As we get closer to October, we will be ramping up our celebrations, so keep an eye out and get involved. We're really looking forward to hearing and seeing all about your events and your celebrations. So, to kick us off on the planning and the celebrating, I would like to reintroduce Emily, Tamara and Dom from Geoscience Australia's Education and Outreach team, and they're going to be showing us some simple and really fun activities. And maybe some of these can feature in your events. So I'm going to jump off, we're going to do a little bit of a tech shuffle, and then we're going to dive into the super fun.
Thank you very much, Verity. We're going to just launch straight into quite a wide variety of demonstrations that we have for you this morning. And our demonstrations will kind of cover nearly all of the Australian curriculum. We're going to start down with the Year 3s and 4s, and we're going to make our way up through, all the way up to Year 11 and 12, obviously all centering around earth science. But all the way at the top at Year 11 and 12, we can start to see some cross-curricular links of earth science as well. Now, most of the demonstrations that you're going to see today, we have a resource for them to help you replicate this in the classroom or at home, bar one, but that is currently being worked on by yours truly. So we're going to start with our Year 3 and 4 section of the curriculum, which now is rocks and minerals. And we're going to start with a lovely sample of conglomerate here. Now, this is a sedimentary rock made up of lots of different things stuck together, lots of different sediments all stuck together. We can see some pebbles or some cobbles. We've got large chunks of quartz. We've got little pebbles scattered throughout, lots of different colours. And holding everything together is this kind of matrix of sand and mud, things like that. So when I look at a conglomerate like this, the one thing that comes to my mind straight off, first off, is yum. I think yum. Not the rock itself, but it reminds me of my favourite dessert, which is Rocky Road. And so Rocky Road is actually really, great analogy for a conglomerate rock like this. And so this morning I'm going to live out my TV chef dreams and you're going to watch me make some rocky road. Now, I have a bowl to mix everything in. I've got an assortment of sediments that will be going into this rocky road. We've got some biscuits crushed up. I've got some glacé cherries that will go into our rocky road as well. And I've also got some pink and white marshmallows. All of these represent different pebbles and different rocks and different things that you will all find in a conglomerate, a lovely sedimentary rock like that. Now, the one ingredient we're missing now is the mud or the sand, the thing that will glue everything and hold it all together. And that, of course, is the best part of the rocky road, which is melted chocolate. I'm going to add that into my bowl as well. And conglomerate rocks don't get mixed in a bowl like this to form, but what we are going to do is we're going to speed up the cementation process, which forms conglomerate rocks. Make sure it is mixed evenly as you can. Using a spatula, probably better than a small spoon, but that looks pretty good to me. We've got a pretty good coverage of our sand / mud / melted chocolate over all of our different sediments. And then we're going to pour that into a container. Oh, and on the bench. Now, the next step in the formation of a conglomerate rock or a sedimentary rock is a couple million years of, not much, of pressure, sticking those different grains of sediment together. We don't have a couple of million years to wait for our rocky road to turn into rocky road, and also that's not how we make rocky road. Pop this in the fridge, let it set for a couple of hours until it's nice and firm. But as with every good TV chef, we have things that are prepared earlier. And so this is a piece of rocky road that I made the other day to represent our conglomerate. Now, if we have a look at our rocky road next to our conglomerate, and if I make not too much of a mess, we can see that it's a pretty good representation of what is occurring in this specific rock here, and in also lots of other different conglomerate rocks as well. And the thing with rocks is that when they find themselves on the surface of the earth, they can get rained on, they get snowed on, they get blown by the wind, they bump into other rocks, they weather and erode. And so our rocky road conglomerate rock can experience some weathering and erosion, some mechanical weathering and erosion. But that actually quite neatly leads me into introducing or reintroducing Tamara to run us through our next demonstration, or series of demonstrations, all to do with weathering and erosion. So let us clear the space and we'll get started with our next demonstration.
All right, everyone, as I've already said, I'm going to be talking a bit about weathering and erosion. And so this is a really important topic, especially in the Year 4 or even the Year 5 Australian curriculum, depending on which version you are actively using right now. But it is suitable, all the demos I'm showing today will be pretty suitable for a mid-primary or up to a mid-secondary, depending on whether you're doing it in science, in your geography classes, or even if you're just curious and want to have a bit of fun. So when we talk about weathering and erosion, Dom's already alluded to it a little bit, but weathering is the process of rocks being broken into smaller pieces, and this is either physically or chemically driven, and that can be via wind, water, or even living things like plants. And so those broken up bits are those sediments, and that can be the sand or pebbles or silt or any of that sort of material. And when that happens, you have that initial process of breaking it down, but you separately also have erosion, which is that movement of those sediments away from that original rock. So these are two separate processes, but they often happen simultaneously. And they can also happen multiple times to the same rock or the same bit of sediment. So I'm going to show you two demonstrations, one highlighting physical and the other one highlighting chemical weathering and erosion processes. And through that, we're going to use a very simple material that we can find. Just a little sugar cube. So I've got one here, and we're going to use that for both our demos for different things. So for this first demonstration, don't need much. Just need our sugar cube, a marker to be able to make some marks of what's going on. I've already pre-marked up my sugar cube to make this a little easier today. And so we can see here that this has got all the edges, all the corner bits marked out, so we can really clearly see how angular it starts out as. And most importantly, I've just got a lidded container in here. So how this is going to work is that our sugar cube is going to act as a sediment that is broken off from a rock and has landed in our river, which is our container. So for this experiment, what we're looking at is that rivers are typically fast flowing. Dom's already mentioned a little bit about how things can mechanically or physically get broken down. And so this process is imagining a fast flowing river. It has all those different types and sizes of sediments caught up in them. And when they're in there, they can bump into each other or they might bump into the bottom of the river. So I'm going to actively demonstrate that today. And I'm going to also get my co-host to help me because I don't want my arms getting too tired. Because I am going to pop our sugar cube right in our container. And we are going to speed up that process pretending we're a raging river. So a bit of a noise warning. Beautiful. Thank you very much, Stu. So hopefully that should be a pretty good summary of what's happened. So we're going to now open it up, and I'm going to grab out that piece that we just saw before. Okay, so this is now our piece of sugar cube. So we can see that all those edges that were originally there are now almost completely gone. It's much more rounded. I've got lots of little bits of loose powder coming off, representing smaller bits that have weathered away. And so we can see that that's a really good demonstration of it getting smaller and rounded the more that it's in that river system. So a nice big change compared to our original sugar cube sort of angle. So a really nice quick demonstration that can show a really cool way of how we do physical weathering and erosion processes. But now, we're going to ramp it up just a little bit more. And we are going to show a chemical representation of weathering and erosion. I still have my sugar cube. I have just now colored it completely on all sides to make it really visually easier to see. I have got a disposable cup, which I've already pre-pierced a hole in with my little pin. So you can use whatever you want to do for that. If you have a bit more sophisticated equipment, you can always use a dropper or anything like that. And I've just got a stand to keep it all together and a container so we don't have water going all over the table. So what I'm going to do in a moment now is I'm going to put some water into the top of our cup. And we're going to let it drip down and see how that impacts the sugar cube and see what chemical processes might be occurring. So if it's going to behave today, we should see quite a cool effect. All right, let me angle it in the right way. There we go. So we're just going to watch for a moment as our water is dropping off. And what we're going to start to observe is the process of chemical weathering of this sugar cube. We can see that already some of that colouring is disappearing as it's eating away at the surface of our sugar cube. And so this is a really cool process that we do observe in nature and also in some of our buildings and structures. So the weathering part is the water entering, dissolving the sugar and allowing it to basically become in that solution. And the erosion part is that as you watch further along, little green flecks that were originally on the top of the sugar cube are now starting to move away through that container. So this is a really good demonstration for representing what can happen with rainwater. So rainwater is naturally slightly acidic. It will react with certain rock types like limestone and marble. And when that happens, you get this eating away of those rocks over time. That can happen in cave-like systems to create big caverns, or it can even happen to buildings or statues that are created from these materials. So it's a really good way to sort of demonstrate what can be a more complex topic in your younger years. But now that we've seen the power of water, I'm going to swap slightly to talk more about water in general and show you an extra 2 demos to highlight that. So we know that in Australia, water is a really important resource. And in different parts of Australia, you may not get as much consistent rainfall as others. So they depend on different types of sources for water. So groundwater being a really important one. Now, when we talk about groundwater, what that is basically water inside of rocks underground. And that can be inside little pore spaces that are connected up in between sediment grains in a rock, or that could be in connected cracks inside different types of rocks. But if a rock is good at holding or allowing water to flow through it, we would call it an aquifer. If it is not so good at that, if it's not connected enough, then it would often become an aquitard as our descriptions. So, for my next little demo, we are going to see which of my two rocks here are going to be acting as an aquifer, or which ones might be acting as an aquitard. And so what I've got here is just a sandstone brick that you could get from any landscaping sort of place, and just a piece of shale, or you could go slate, or in this case, just a bit of mudstone. And so this, I think, we just got from the local landscaping company, or you could get it from your backyard or from any other area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some water on each rock, and we're going to observe and see whether that water is able to flow through it or not. Okay, so with our first observations, we can see that mudstone, all the water is pooling on top. There's not enough gap in between the tiny little mud grains for it to flow through. So this would be our aquitard. Whereas if I continue to put water on the sandstone, it is just flowing straight through into it. And it's not going through some of these bigger holes, it's just flowing through all those little sand grains that are present. So that would be our aquifer in this model. You can always experiment for different types of rocks from your own local area to see if you can sort of test out you've got a good option or not, and noting that not every sandstone is going to be the best aquifer material, but some will. But I've got one last thing from me before I hand over to my next presenter, and this is going to be a bit more hands-on with a few more materials. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to build our own aquifer system. And the important part when we talk about aquifers is that we want to be able to access that water from underground. So what we'll often do is we'll dig down with a borehole into the ground, so that way people in that local area could access water and you can pump it back up. So I'm going to go from basically nothing, building up the whole aquifer, including that pump and borehole system, so you can sort of see how this works in reality. We have a lot of materials for this one. We're going to need a couple different glasses, one containing gravel, some other sediment like a sand. I've just got one with a bit of food dye in it just for a bit of fun for today. Some form of plasticine, or you could use Play-Doh or probably clay. And then I've got my fancy jury-rigged little pump bottle. So I've taken this from a sanitizer bottle, but you could take it from a soap bottle or anything else. And at the bottom, I've just attached a bit of fabric with an elastic band. This is to allow the water to flow through, but not get any of the gravel or the bits of sand caught up in it. So you could use a bit of pantyhose, or I think I used a bit of a bandage on this one. And so I'm going to build this up from the ground up. So starting off, we're going to start with our thing of gravel. This gravel layer is going to represent our aquifer because it's got the really big pore spaces in between to sort of give us a better representation visually. I'm just going to add some water into that, and we don't want to fill it all the way. We just want to fill it that it's just reaching near the top of where that gravel layer starts. So as if our aquifer is already pretty full. I am now going to do this a little bit in reverse order. Normally we drill down. I'm going to add the pump in now because it's much easier to build it around it, but you can experiment in your own way. So I'm just going to use our little stick here to help give me a little bit of space to pop this in. And we have got our pump ready inside. Now, I'm going to add in my next layer, which is going to be our aquitard, our water-resistant sort of layer, and that's going to be that clay. Now, this bit you really want to take the time to push all the edges so that it is completely sealed off on all sides, and you also want to make sure that it is covering up around that pump hole. So I'm going to add little bits in until I'm happy that it is fully covered over. So if we can see there, that we've got that layer built up and it's clearly covered up in that section. And the last step is to add our extra sediment layer. In this case, I've just got a bit of beach sand to add on top. And we have now got our entire aquifer model built with our water on the bottom, our aquitard layer, and extra sediments on top. Now, if I've done this correctly, theoretically, I should be able to pump some water out. So let's get this set up, angle it that way, and let's see if we can get the water coming. Look at that go. So that's just one of the many ways that you could demonstrate all the amazing ways we can access groundwater. But I'm now going to hand over to Emily. We'll do a little swapperoo and show you the next few experiments, taking a bit more of a shift into more of an earthquake mindset.
So, like Tamara said, we're now going to move on to talk about earthquakes. In the Australian curriculum, earthquakes are now in grade 8, but the demonstration that I'm going to do first is definitely suited for students in middle to upper primary and also all the way up to lower secondary. Earthquakes are reported on the magnitude scale, and humans can often feel earthquakes around a magnitude 3, and the world's largest earthquake ever recorded was in magnitude 9.5. Now, the magnitude scale is a logarithmic scale, and this can often be quite hard for students to visualize the massive increases in energy released every time you move up on the magnitude scale. So to help us with this, we're going to do a demonstration using some material that you can pick up from your supermarket. Some spaghetti. And you don't even have to cook the spaghetti. So what we're going to do is we can use these uncooked pieces of spaghetti to help us represent the amount of energy released for earthquakes of different magnitudes. Every time you move up on the magnitude scale, you increase the amount of energy released by around 30 times. So what we're going to start with is one piece of spaghetti. And we're going to say that this represents the energy released for a magnitude 3 past a quake. I'm going to pop on my safety glasses. And what I'm going to do is bend this piece of spaghetti and try to break it. I could break it pretty easily. So this was the amount of energy released for, say, a magnitude 3. But if we want to move up just one step in the magnitude scale, so to a magnitude 4, I now not only need 2 pieces of spaghetti, I need 30 pieces of spaghetti. So here it is. Here's our bundle of 30 pieces of spaghetti. And this time, I can push through, try to break it, and I can break through those strands of 30 pieces of spaghetti. Now, I could feel those vibrations through the strands of the spaghetti and feel that energy released. Clear up some of the spaghetti. If we move up again, just one more time, I now need to take that bundle of 30 times of spaghetti, times it by 30, and get 900 strands of spaghetti. Here we go. I did count out 900 strands of spaghetti for this experiment, and we can see the massive jump up in the energy released. And now I can try and bend these pieces of spaghetti, but we can see I have to work really hard to try and break through these pieces of spaghetti. So I'm not going to try and do that in front of everyone right now. But what if we want to jump up one more time, so to a magnitude 6 earthquake? Well, we would need to take this bundle of 900 strands of spaghetti, multiply it again by 30 to get 27,000 strands of spaghetti. I don't have 27,000 strands of spaghetti, but what I do have is this piece of fabric. And this represents the cross-section of a bundle of 27,000 pieces of spaghetti. This barely fits on the screen. I would struggle to even be able to pick up this much spaghetti, let alone trying to bend and maneuver it to break it. Now, I couldn't stop there. I thought, what if we jump up just one more time in the magnitude scale? So there might be some of you in the audience who can do some quick maths. I would need to take this bundle of 27,000 strands of spaghetti and multiply it by 30 to get 810,000 strands of spaghetti. Now, to show you how big that is, I need the help of Dom and Tamara to come and help me. And what we have here is a piece of fabric that is 1.8 meters wide, representing 810,000 pieces of spaghetti, or jumping up to a magnitude 7 past a quake. Isn't that amazing? Thank you so much for that. So that's a really, really simple demo that we can use in the classroom or at home to help students understand the logarithmic scale that we use for the magnitude earthquakes. Now, let me clear up my spaghetti before heading into our next demo. We're going to stay on the same track of earthquakes. This demo is now more suited to a Year 8 audience. Sometimes when earthquakes happen, things break and fracture, but often something strange can happen to the ground. In some places, the ground can start wobbling and it can even liquefy. Now, this can sometimes and is more likely to happen in areas that are closer to rivers, where there's lots of wet, sandy soil underneath the ground. And to explore this, I have a nice tub of sand. Now, this is just some beach sand, but you could use lots of different types of sediment. You could use a river sand, you could use a mix of mud. And what we're going to do is build a cityscape. You can get creative with this, but I'm going to add in some heavier items that might represent buildings in here. And I'm also going to add in a lighter or relatively lighter item like this car. There you go, you can see all of these. And here's our city. We have our different buildings, different cars. And to simulate an earthquake, we're going to need to add some vibrations, because that's what all an earthquake is, when the ground is shaking or vibrating. And I forgot to mention, this sand here, I've added in enough water so that all the sand is damp, but there's not any water pooling at the top. A good way to add vibrations, pick an object. You could use a block or a book, and all we're going to do is simply tap the end of the box. Now, this might get a little bit noisy, but I'm only going to be tapping it for a short amount of time. And I want you all to have a guess and think, what is going to happen to our cityscape when I simulate an earthquake? All right. So we can see, after some vibrations, that all of those tiny grains of sand have started to jiggle and move around, allowing space for water to start pooling up at the surface. Some of our heavier buildings, like these buildings here, have fallen over and also started to sink into the ground. Now I'm going to tap for a couple more seconds and we're going to see if anything else happens. Now, what I forgot to mention is that this is a ping pong ball, which represents lighter items like pipes, which are underground. And during an earthquake, and if liquefaction occurs, we can see that some of these lighter items are buoyant and they can actually rise up to the surface. And after the earthquake stops, all of these grains, they stop jiggling, they lock back in together, and our ground once again becomes solid. This is a really simple demonstration that you can try at home, but it also doesn't have to stop there. You can use this as an inquiry activity. What would happen if you change the amount of water? What would happen if you change the sediment type? And what would happen if the vibrations come from somewhere close or somewhere far away? Maybe you could even run an engineering experiment with your students, where the aim of the game is to design an earthquake structure that can withhold the shaking for as long as possible. Maybe you could have a less sandy control building that has no earthquake proofing. Maybe you could think about modifying your structure to have strong foundations so that it can go into the ground. Or maybe you could think about using a way to absorb some of those vibrations. And engineers can call this a base isolation model. So we can put something in here and put our building on top to try and dampen those vibrations. Now, I'm going to stop there and leave it up to you to explore and see what would happen. But now for our final demonstration, I will hand back over to Dom. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Emily. Okay, I've got one last demonstration for you today, and we have arrived at year 11 and 12, right at the top end of the Australian curriculum, and I've got a few different props for this demonstration. The first two being these two pipes. Now, I'm going to start with this white pipe here. It is a PVC pipe made from polyvinyl chloride from petroleum products from the earth. It's hollow. There's a hole that goes all the way through this. It's about 1 metre long, a little bit bendy. It's quite light. My second pipe here. I will tell you it's a little bit heavier. This is a copper pipe made from copper-bearing minerals. Also hollow, about the same length, about 1 metre long. This one feels a little bit different to the PVC pipe. It's quite cold, it's conductive, it's drawing the heat out of my hand. I can't bend it without it bending forever. So it's a little bit different to the PVC pipe. Now, what I've done just there very simply by discussing the different properties of these two pipes is perform a materials dissection. So have a discussion with your students, or you can write down a list of all the different properties and physical things that you notice about materials, just to kind of better understand them. I've got one last piece to this puzzle. And it is in this box labelled strong magnet, and you guessed it, it's a strong magnet. This is a neodymium magnet made from refining neodymium in heavy mineral sands. Now this is quite a strong magnet. You can do a little bit of materials dissection on something like this. It's heavy, it's dense, it's metallic, it's cylindrical shaped. These are tube shaped. You might start to think about how the interaction between these two things might play out. You guessed it right, I am about to drop this neodymium magnet down through both of these tubes. We're going to start with the PVC pipe here, and I am going to count myself down from 3, 2, 1, and then I will get you to count up from 1 in seconds as to how long it takes for the magnet to fall through the PVC pipe. I'm going to start from 3, you're going to start from 1. 3, 2, 1.
1.
It was a quick 1 second. Landed in my hand at the bottom. We'll do that again because the key to good science is repeatability. So I'm going to do this one again. Again, I will count down from 3, 2, 1. I'll get you to start at 1 in seconds, going up. 3, 2, 1.
1.
I got stuck on my finger as I was dropping it down. Gravity works. Great. The magnet is falling down through this PVC pipe thanks to gravity into my hand. If my hand wasn't there, it would go to the ground. If the ground wasn't there, it would go to the centre of the earth. So gravity's working. I'm now going to drop this neodymium magnet down through the copper pipe. Now, this is not a magnetic pipe. The magnet is not sticking to the copper. And I'm going to do the same thing. With my convoluted instructions, I'm going to count down from 3, you're going to count out from 1. In seconds, it takes for magnet to fall through copper pipe. 3, 2, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8 seconds. Slightly more than 1 second. And again, because we love doing things more than once, we love the repeatability of our demonstration and our experiments. I'm going to do it again. I also just can't help myself. It's such a great demonstration. In 3, 2, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8 seconds. Okay. So that is a demonstration that you could finish there. It's a really nice demonstration of Lenz's law, which when a strong magnet passes through copper or moves past copper, it induces current in the copper. That current that's induced then creates a magnetic field operating in the opposite direction to the movement of the magnet. So in this case, magnet falling down, the magnetic field being generated opposite to the movement of the magnet, trying to push it back up. Ultimately, gravity wins, and magnet falls through the bottom of the tube, but it takes quite a long time. There's quite a bit of force being generated through Lenz's law. We could leave it there. I'm not going to, but we could. I want to interrogate that part of Lenz's law that says that a current is induced. How can we show a current being induced? How can we represent current?
Lights.
Yes. With lights. With a something that looks, I think it looks very cool. It's a bit of a Frankenstein's monster of different things all together. We've got a clear Perspex acrylic pipe, which is the same diameter as the 2 pipes that we've already looked at, the same length as well, about 1 metre. It's only clear so we can see the magnet through it. Then I've got a whole bunch of copper wire wound quite tightly at regular intervals along this pipe, and some LEDs soldered onto the end of those pieces of copper wire. Third time's a charm, I'm going to drop this magnet down through this copper and plastic pipe. I'm not going to get you to count how many seconds it takes for the magnet to fall down through. I just want you to observe, as every good scientist does. Observe. I'm still going to count myself down from 3 though. 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to do it again, but I'm just going to flip my arms around. And I can keep doing it. I can do it a bit slower. You can see how speed might influence and play a role in the induction of current with the movement of the magnet through the copper. So what we've just seen here is physical proof that current is being induced through the movement of a neodymium magnet and some copper. I could leave it there. But I'm going to take it one step further, not with a demonstration, but just with a kind of a thought exercise. We're in a room right now, or you're watching online through your computer using electricity. Where does that electricity come from? It comes from the wall. Yeah, absolutely. You flick the switch on, you get the power. You flick the light switch on the side of the wall as well. But where does that electricity come from in the first place? Neodymium and copper. Whether it's wind or coal or hydro, movement of magnets and copper, not linearly like this, but in a turbine, either powered by the wind or by steam, something like that, is what generates electricity that powers our homes, powers our cars, well, through batteries. Actually, that's incorrect. Powers our homes, powers our computers, things like that. That is all that we have for you today. I will reiterate again that everything that you've seen, bar that, you can find on our website, ga.gov.au/education. There are guides as to how you can do those things in your classroom or at home as well. But thank you very much on behalf of the team as well. We hope you had fun. We had a lot of fun. And we are very excited for Earth Science Week. We can't wait to celebrate you